We're going live. We're going live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Environmental Planning Commission meeting of October 4th, 2023. I call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. For those joining us in person, please note that due to our hybrid environment, audio and video presentations can no longer be shared from the lectern. Requests to show an audio or video presentation during a meeting should be directed to epc@mountainview.gov by 4:30 p.m. on the meeting date. Additionally, due to our hybrid environment, we will no longer have speakers line up to speak on an item. Anyone wishing to address the EPC in person must complete a yellow speaker card. Please indicate the name you would like to be called by when it is your turn to speak and the item number on which you wish to speak. Please complete one yellow speaker card for each item and turn them into the EPC clerk as soon as possible, but no later than the call for public comment on the item you are speaking on. Instructions for addressing the commission virtually may be found on the posted agenda. Now I will ask the EPC clerk to proceed with roll call.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Cranston?
Here.
Commissioner Gutierrez is absent. Commissioner Haymeyer?
Here.
Commissioner Nunez is absent. Vice Chair Dempsey?
Here.
Chair Yin?
Here.
We have 2 absent and 6. Here, present.
Okay, now we move on to agenda 3, minutes approval. Oh, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry, 5 present.
Thank you for the correction. We're going to move on to minutes approval. Is there anyone who would like to discuss anything on the minutes? No? If there's public comment, anyone in attendance would like to provide comments on the minutes, please fill out a yellow speaker card and provide it to the EPC clerk. If anyone on Zoom would like to provide comment on the minutes, please click the raise hand button on Zoom or press *9 on your phone. Phone users can mute and unmute themselves with *6. Now that I know that you're there, it's okay. We'll make sure to catch you when time comes. So we can go ahead and vote.
I can move to approve them.
Thank you.
I can move to approve them. I don't think there was a motion.
Oh, an official motion has been made. An official second.
Oh, is there?
Sorry if you're holding your hand up.
I'm happy to second it, yes.
Thank you. You can go ahead and take a vote.
We just don't see the mover and the seconder.
We see Bill. Name. Oh, that's first.
Roll call then. Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Cranston?
Aye.
Commissioner Haymeyer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Dempsey?
Aye.
Chair Yin?
I will abstain. I couldn't get online to review it today, so.
Okay. So motion approved with 4-3.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, just clarifying for the record, the motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention and 2 absent.
So we'll move on to item 3.2. That was 3.2. Oral communications, agenda item 4. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the EPC on any matter not on the agenda. Speakers are allowed to speak on any topic for up to 3 minutes during this section. State law prohibits the Commission from acting on non-agenda items. If anyone in attendance would like to provide comments on non-agenda items, please fill out a yellow speaker card and provide it to the EPC clerk. If anyone on Zoom would like to provide comment on non-agenda items, please click the raise hand button in Zoom or press *9 on your phone. Phone users can mute themselves with *6. Do we have any speaker cards?
We do have 1 speaker on Zoom.
Oh, thank you.
Bruce.
Hi.
Bruce England, you're allowed to talk now.
Okay, you hear me okay? I couldn't quite tell.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Bruce England, Wisman Station Drive. After much procrastination, I signed up for the CERT training, the community emergency training team training through the city. And something struck me in the materials. There is a section there about controlling environmental impacts, making sure that hazardous waste and biological waste and that sort of thing is disposed of properly. I don't know if this falls in your purview at all, but I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. If EPC has never reviewed that program, that part of the program, that might be something worth looking at. I could also raise it with the sustainability team on staff. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other speakers?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to agenda item 5.1, public hearing, 500 and 550 Ellis Street Hotel and Office Project. We'll first have a staff presentation, then questions by the EPC, followed by public comment. At the closure of public comment, the commission will then deliberate and take action. So, if you wouldn't mind, the staff presentation will be from Senior Planner Ellen Yao and Advanced Planning Manager Eric Anderson.
Hold on for just a moment. I apologize, I got disconnected from Zoom. Hold on for just a moment. Thank you.
For those on Zoom, we're just having slight technical difficulties. We'll be with you momentarily.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Okay, good evening, commissioners. Thank you for the community for waiting. My name is Ellen Yao. I'm senior planner and the project planner for this project at 500 and 550 Ellis Street. I'm joined tonight by advanced planning manager Eric Anderson. The project before you for your consideration this evening is a hotel and office development at 500 and 550 Ellis. The project is comprised of 2 parcels that total approximately 2.16 acres at the corner of Ellis Street and National Avenue. The project is zoned P41 in the East Wisman Precise Plan in the Employment Character Area North, and it has a general plan land use designation of high intensity office. The site is currently surrounded by office uses on all sides with a commercial property at the on-ramp of US 101, that's Specialties Restaurant. And the site is developed with 2 one-story buildings, 1 on each parcel. And it has surface level parking between the 2 buildings and on the western and northern side of the site. All will be proposed to be demolished. The proposed project is to construct a new 6-story hotel and a new 4-level fully automated parking garage that is wrapped by the hotel on 3 sides in the southern part of the site, that's shown on the left on this image, and a new 2-story office building in the northern part of the site, shown on the right. The project requests approximately 74,600 square feet of non-residential hotel bonus FAR as part of the East Wisman Precise Plan bonus FAR program. We will discuss that more in detail later. This project will provide a 2-way driveway, which is accessed off of the National Avenue, and it wraps along the western and northern property lines, and it exits out on Ellis Street through an exit-only driveway. This will reduce the current 4 driveway cuts into 2 in order to maximize sidewalk continuity and provide a pedestrian-friendly experience, especially along Ellis Street. The project also includes an enhanced paseo between the buildings. We'll discuss more later in the presentation. The 6-story hotel is designed with 3 primary volumes. It has a key corner tower, a horizontal street wall that's comprised of the lower 4 floors, and while the 2 upper floors are stepped back. The facade that faces the paseo is also stepped down to 2 stories to interface with the 2-story office building across the paseo. And it provides a more intimate setting for the pedestrian experience along the paseo. The hotel has a simple and modern design with a mix of smooth and textured materials, including EIFS, Trespa panels, metal panels, and wood-like paneling. The hotel frontage on Ellis Street features entries to the hotel lobby, restaurant, and bar. And there's also a covered patio that provides additional pedestrian and engaging features. That is shown on the, I'm gonna keep on going back. On the right image. Along National Avenue, the hotel facade provides additional pedestrian entries, including a shopfront and porte cochere waiting and loading area. That's shown in the left image. This is the 2-story office building. It is located in the north of the parcel. Along Ellis Street, the building includes high quality and finely textured materials along the 1st floor. This includes a stone porcelain tile, and there's a projecting 2nd-story element that provides interest to the glass facade. The north facade uses warmer tones to individualize a separate entrance to the building, and you can see right here on the left corner a distinct main building entryway. This is oriented towards and helps activate the paseo, and it includes step seating that integrates with the steps at the paseo's Ellis Street entrance. Both the hotel and office building follow the Precise Plan's street wall standards to maintain facade consistency on the site frontage along Ellis Street. In compliance with the East Wisman Precise Plan, the project proposes a 10-foot wide pedestrian paseo that runs east-west and connects with the multi-use path that's proposed by the adjacent development project, shown as 600 Ellis on the image. With the construction of this paseo, the two portions will be connected and it will provide direct access from the Ella Street, and it completes 2/3 of the way through the block. This is shown circled red in the diagram on the left. The paseo is flanked on both sides with the hotel and offices' common open spaces, which is all publicly accessible, and it provides amenities like movable tables and chairs, an outdoor fireplace, built-in seating planters, and outdoor lawn game area, and it also has direct access into both of the buildings. This area proposes landscape and curvilinear planter boxes and also preserves an existing mature roadwood tree as a focal point at the western end of the path. The center image shown on the screen shows the entrance of the paseo from Ellis, and the right image is a bird's eye view of the paseo from the 600 Ellis project. This project includes the removal of 15 heritage trees and 9 other trees due to conflicts with the building envelope, risk from demolition, site grading, and low suitability for preservation due to construction impacts. This project requires 39 replacement trees, but there is limited space for all that replacement on such a urban built-out site. So due to those factors, such as the street wall standard in the East Wisman Precise Plan, which requires that front facades of buildings be located within 20 feet of the sidewalk, the preservation of the existing trees and the circulation needs for the site, the project is only able to accommodate 30 of the 39 replacement trees, and they will pay an in lieu fee for the remaining required replacements. The project will also provide an additional 9 street trees, which is not included in that 30 replacement tree calculation. This project will retain 13 existing heritage trees, 6 of which are mature redwood trees shown along National and Ellis. You can see it's shown in green in the image above. The project will result in a 6% net increase in tree canopy coverage at full maturity, and the proposed plant palette is comprised of at least 75% native plants. To minimize the number of vehicle trips into and out of East Wisman, the Precise Plan requires all new office projects to include specific transportation demand site design features and operational measures. This includes a TDM plan, Transportation Demand Management Plan, that details the implementation and the reporting of the TDM measures. This project has provided a plan that meets the Precise Plan requirements and includes, but is not limited to, of course, the compliance of the trip cap, implementation and annual monitoring of a TDM plan, including the following measures, such as joining the Mountain View TMA, provision of bike storage, repair facilities and showers, subsidized transit passes, and guaranteed ride home program and ride matching resources. Additionally, the East Wisman Precise Plan provides parking ratio maximums, and it encourages shared parking, especially for mixed-use developments. Since a recent state law, AB 2097, took effect at the start of this year, cities are prohibited from enforcing parking minimums for developments located within 1/2 mile of transit. However, this doesn't apply to hotels. So based on that, 209 spaces would still be required for the hotel use. Again, shared parking is recommended in East Wisman Precise Plan for mixed-use developments. So when shared parking is proposed, the total number of spaces and their distribution to the site needs to be supported through a parking study. This parking study is included in one of the attachments in the multimodal transportation analysis, and it studied that the proposed shared parking supply is adequate. So the project provides that total of 192 parking spaces shared between those two uses. If you can see at the top chart, it just highlights specific points throughout the day for that shared use, and you can see the estimated maximum provided spaces, 192, can accommodate the estimations there. Again, the project also exceeds the required bicycle parking, providing 24 secure long-term bike parking spaces and 32 short-term bicycle racks. The project substantially complies with the East Wisman Precise Plan employment character area and requests 2 minor exceptions. These exceptions allow for the preservation of existing heritage trees and reduces surface parking loading spaces in excess of the operational needs of the uses. So to preserve existing redwood trees located along Ellis Street and National Avenue, the new sidewalk is designed to meander around the existing redwoods, while portions of the sidewalk will remain monolithic. As designed, the sidewalks will vary from 6 feet to 8 feet to achieve wider sidewalks for the enhanced pedestrian experience while preserving the trees. However, during construction phase, if it's determined necessary, sidewalk width may be reduced further in order to prioritize the tree protection and avoid any significant root damage. The second exception is the zoning code requires 1 loading space for the first 30,000 square feet of floor area and an additional space for additional square footage. Therefore, the hotel is required to have 6 loading spaces, and the office is supposed to provide 2 loading spaces. The office will provide those 2. However, the applicant is requesting an exception to the hotel requirement. This hotel is a limited service hotel, so it doesn't have banquet halls or large conference rooms. It may not require those additional loading spaces. So the loading spaces is consistent with some other hotel projects that we've had, and the MTA that I discussed earlier didn't identify any issues with that reduced loading space. So overall on this site, there will be a total of 4 loading spaces, and the hotel, if it turns out needs additional, can use the office, dedicated ones. The project also includes a request to utilize bonus FAR allowance under the East Wisman Precise Plan. The hotel FAR is limited to 1.0, but hotels that are part of mixed-use development can have a combined maximum of 2.5 FAR. In order to earn that bonus FAR, the project must meet enhanced green building standards and provide community benefits. This project complies with those requirements by proposing buildings that are LEED Platinum, and they will be providing a community benefit contribution proportional to the 0.79 bonus FAR for the hotel. The contribution will be based on rates that's adopted by the City Council. Hotels are exempt from the Jobs Housing Linkage Program requirement, and the office is not requesting bonus FAR, so the contribution is only limited to the square footage for the hotel. So in conclusion, staff recommends the EPC, recommend the City Council adopt the initial study and approve the planned community permit, the development review permit, the provisional use permit, and heritage tree removal permit. City staff is present and available for questions. The applicant is also available and has a brief presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move to EPC questions. If anyone has any questions, please.
Chair, I believe the applicant has a presentation as well.
Oh, you do? Okay. Sorry about that. Please go forward. I'm not in control of that, sorry.
You can hear me now? Perfect. Well, good evening. My name is Tom Jess. I'm with Eris Studio Architects. I'm representing the project. First off, I just wanted to thank Ellen and all the staff for all the work that we've been going through. This has been a long process to get to this point. The project's been through many iterations, and they've been great to work with, so I can't say enough positive things. Also with me on Zoom are Daniel Cunningham and Connor Fahey from the landscape architecture team. I believe Bill Henn with the civil engineer, and then Raul Rodriguez is here from the parking lift manufacturer. If there's any specific parking lift questions, he'll be available to answer those, and they're available on Zoom, I believe. The owner of this project is not able to attend today, but it's Lauren Brown with Vance Brown Construction. Their family's owned this piece of property for 55 years, and they just see it as an undeveloped or underutilized parcel and are looking for ways to enhance and further develop the property. So this is the project that we've been working on with them. They're based right here or just in the next town over in Palo Alto. As I mentioned, we've been working on this for quite a long time, and we feel confident that it's going to make a positive contribution to the neighborhood and the city as a whole. Hopefully you will agree with that. If you can go to the next slide, please. One of the things that we wanted to talk about is just how committed this is to the multimodal transportation approach. As things have changed and evolved over the last few years with cars and ride sharing and ride hailing and so forth, we wanted to really enhance, embrace that and move the project in that direction. So we are within half a mile of several bus stops, also a light rail. If you can go to the next slide, as you move into our project, you can see that we, as was displayed on the previous slide, the bike parking, the showers, the bike repair center, contributing to or participating in the MTA, and all those things are really going to enhance this area. And we wanted to take that very seriously and make sure that we were as accommodating as possible to those elements. If you can go to the next slide. One of the big features on this site is the Paseo, and Ellen touched on it, but it really is something that goes above and beyond what's actually required. As was mentioned, what's required is a 10-foot pedestrian path. That's what's provided up north of us. You can see they've put half of it at the very top of the sheet. They put half of it on one parcel, half's going to go on the other, and it goes right along a parking garage. So we really enhanced this and made it quite a gift to both the office, the hotel, and the public. So it is publicly accessible. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is one that's really evolved over time with our meetings with the DRC, especially this portion here, where we've really expanded it, tried to make it as wide and welcoming as possible, incorporated seating. You can see we have a little bit of a grade change there. So there's a accessible sidewalk that wraps around. We've incorporated that in so it doesn't look like an obstacle that you have to get past. It becomes an inviting way to access the space. And if you can go to the next slide. And one of the other things that kind of came out of the DRC was the stepping down of the building and really activating the second floor of the buildings on both sides of the space. So there are pedestrian entrances into the meeting rooms, into the pre-function space, into the hotel, into the office that spill out into the space. But there's also private balconies on one side and then a shared office balcony on the other side that vertically activate the space. And you can see there's a combination of both passive areas and more active areas. And the 10-foot path that runs vertically through there for the people that are just physically passing through, it's very clear and easy to navigate how you can get through this space. You can go to the next slide, please. This is just a little bit of an up-close view. You can see that we have, as was mentioned, the fire pit in the very back distance, the bike racks, the active areas with like ping pong or something along those lines out there, as well as movable seating, fixed seating, both hard and soft surfaces, and tried to make this place as inviting as possible. You can go to the next slide. This is just another example of us trying to interact with the public way. So this is a recessed patio that comes into the space and creates an outdoor dining experience for the restaurant and the bar. There's a really clear interaction with the pedestrians on the street. You can see from this is the nice wide sidewalk with I call it a parquet, I don't know what the technical name is, but the landscape strip between the sidewalk and the street. And we've planted street trees all along those. And we'll talk about trees in a little bit, but that is a feature that I think is gonna really help the pedestrian experience there, where it makes it feel a little bit more protected from traffic by having that landscape area there. And if you can go to the next slide. This is another big feature that's kind of a little unique to this project is the parking approach that we've taken here. This has evolved over time. Initially, we proposed 2 stories of parking above the ground floor, so there'd be a vehicle ramp. And we were really discouraged from going that route because it created on the second floor openings into the garage as opposed to active spaces and the hotel spaces. And we also had some other parking arrangements around the sides and so forth. But we found this system, and we've used parking lifts on a number of projects in Berkeley, in Santa Barbara, in San Luis Obispo. We've used I've never used this exact system, but Utron is a well-respected company. They're very well run. We do have a representative on here if there's any questions about it. But what we really like about it is how concealed it is. It's really tucked in the back of the building, and the units and the guest rooms wrap around it so that from the street, from the pedestrian experience, it really does feel like a nice urban street face, active windows, lots going on, as opposed to walking past parking lots. If you can go to the next slide. So this is a fully automated system. So the hotel guests will have valet. They're not going to have to become familiar with it. There's no learning curve associated with it if you're a hotel guest. If you're an office employee or an employee of the hotel, you will have access to it to do a self-park. You don't have to use valet for that. And they have an app. You can call it, you can open it, you can let people know, you can call your car ahead of time. You can also swipe a fob. You can pull a ticket. There's a lot of ways to get access to this depending on what's selected and how it works. And one of the things that we wanted to clarify is that we've worked really closely with the operator with the Utron company and also with the trip generation and making sure that we have enough capacity. So the way that we have it dialed in is there's 4 bays, and each bay can accommodate 25 to 30 cycles an hour. So it's a roughly 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes per cycle per bay, and there's 4 bays. So according to the trip generation of the TDM, the maximum number of trips at any point during the day is like 101. So we can accommodate anywhere from 100 to 120. So we have capacity to handle even the heaviest time without backing up and slowing things down. And we also wanted to iterate that there is a backup generator for this building, so there will be power if there's a power outage, so it's not going to shut that down. And then if there is maintenance required at any time, it would be on 1 bay and the other 3 bays would be operating. So the whole system has a lot of redundancy and backup built into it. And as an operator, as a hotel operator, it's really key that this works. I mean, no one's going to want to have a guest that can't get their car, So we wanted to make sure, and we tested that and pressed them really hard to make sure that we had a system here that we were proposing that works really well. If you can go to the next slide. Another key important part of that is the guest experience. We want to make sure that the guest arrival experience is very attractive. We tuck the parking away, but we don't want the guest to feel like they have to drive and kind of drop their car off right in front of a roll-up door or something. So this is the Port Cochere. You can see the valet station there. There's a couple waiting stations, accessible spaces. Using some of the materials that are on elsewhere in the building, enhanced lighting in this area, really trying hard to make this feel like an upscale, nice guest arrival experience that's going to kind of set the tone as the guest moves through the space. If you can go to the next slide. This is just a little touch on the trees that are there. I believe Daniel from the landscape architecture firm SWA was going to be.
Yes, thanks, Tom.
Okay, perfect.
As Ellen mentioned, the existing site is host to 47 trees, and we see that as an asset for this project. The trees that are on site are only 6 different species that cover roughly 30% of the site. And a majority of these trees were planted when the site was originally developed. So as you can imagine, these are showing signs of their age. Can we go to the next slide? Of those 47 trees, we have been able to preserve 23 of them, and that is due to several conversations with the planning department and making adjustments to the zoning to allow for changes in the sidewalks to meander around some of these existing trees. We've been able to establish and retain some of the healthier trees on site. Next. The proposed plan has many more trees that are existing. There are 53 proposed on site, 62 if we include the street trees. And one of the good things that bringing in new trees allows us to is to diversify the planting palette. So we're going from just 6 types of trees to 12 to have a more biodiverse site, and also selecting trees that are going to be more resilient to our changing climates and this more urban type of development.
Okay. Thank you. A couple of things I did want to add to that just real briefly is some of the measures that we're taking to ensure the health of the trees that we are preserving. We're taking as many measures as we can. Includes routing utility lines away from the trees, setting the building back where we needed to preserve some of those trees, jogging the sidewalk around the trees. We're adjusting grades to make sure that we accommodate the trees. We're requiring that the contractor hand dig around the roots of the trees. There's an arborist going to be present during the demolition. And as soon as the demolition takes place and during construction, there's going to be a fresh bed of mulch. There's going to be irrigation to the trees during construction. So we've really, after meeting with forestry, with public works, with the arborist, with everyone on board from the city, we've had all hands on deck meeting trying to address these trees and make sure that we're doing the best that we possibly can. We're willing to and able to commit to those types of measures to make sure that we're doing the best we can through that. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on a little bit of the green measures that we're incorporating. As was mentioned, this is going to be a LEED Platinum building. It has solar panels, bird-safe glazing, dual plumbing, so we can accommodate wastewater or stormwater into the system when that becomes viable. So there's a ton of measures and steps that we're taking now to make sure that this building's sustainable from now and into the future as well. And with that, I think that's the conclusion of our presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, we had landscape architects as well as the lift manufacturer and the civil engineer available if there's additional questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think now we can move to EPC questions. Commissioner Clark.
I think they'll be brief. The first is the community benefits contribution that was mentioned. That'll be at whatever the current rates are. That's just a cash contribution, I assume, based on the 0.79.
Correct.
Okay. And then the second, most of my other questions were answered, but the one lingering question I had was it's kind of mundane, but the shared loading zone and capacity. So I realize it won't be a full service hotel, but you'll still have to furnish 201 rooms. And I assume, I couldn't tell I didn't dig in too deeply into the plan set to see I assume sharing that loading zone with the office, it's in some reasonable location where you won't have to roll a bunch of things down a driveway or something in order to furnish or do whatever you need to do at the hotel.
Yeah, so the two loading spaces that are dedicated for the hotel, our experience with multiple hotels that we've designed and limited service hotels of this size, 2 is more than enough for this space. Okay. I mean, we're not anticipating the need to use the ones from the office. The ones from the office are on the other side of the office. It's still on the site, but not nearly as convenient as the 2 that are dedicated to the hotel. The 6 that came from the zoning regulations there's no distinction between the use. So a pick, pack, and ship place, a manufacturing place, anything that's commercial. And in fact, I'm almost positive that the square footage of the garage counts towards that as well as the hotel rooms. There's just not much need for, big loading type of thing. If we had banquet rooms and so forth, it'd be a different story, but the 2 should be more than adequate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Cranston?
Several questions. So first, I realized that I'd never actually asked this question before. On a normal heritage tree process, who approves or disapproves the removal of a heritage tree? Is that staff? Is that Parks and Rec? Is that council? How does that work?
Yeah, it depends on the scope of the project. Generally, projects that have 4 or more tree removals that are tied to a development, staff will review, planning staff will review. And if it's less than that, then community services will do the tree removal process. Usually, since it's tied to a development, depending on the partnering permit, it'll go to that authority level. So today, we'll go to EPC and go to council because of the development permit that it's tied to.
All my questions are tree related. Your drawing actually answered one of my questions. It appears that trees 282, 283, 284, and 285 actually will continue to be in between the 2 buildings. Is there a reason that those can't be preserved?
There is, and it has to do with the grades. So what we were able to do in making sure that we provide accessibility through throughout the Paseo, those trees, you can see we're able to preserve the one tree that we're able to preserve because we were able to isolate that in a planter and raise its grade up The grade in the Paseo is a little bit lower to match with the grades of the office building and the hotel and so forth. So it had to do with the vertical grades and being able to accommodate that and provide the accessibility in those spaces.
The trees are too high? Or?
The trees are too high, correct.
Question for staff. I love the East West and Precise Plan, but if I'd realized that this was going to do this, then I probably would have had a problem with it at the time. The fact that the buildings have to be close to the street is basically dictating the execution of 6 trees that are all 130 inches diameter because they're too close to they're within that range. What's the implication of essentially moving the building back away further from the street? It would essentially be a conflict with the precise plan, but it would mean potentially preserving 6 what appear to be very old trees. Would we have to do? Would it require a different motion in order to essentially to deviate from the precise plan, if that was something that was wanted?
The precise plan does allow for certain deviations. The East Wisdom precise plan doesn't specify what those would be, so an applicant would have to initiate that, and staff would have to evaluate and balance it with other priorities. When we reviewed this specific project and the tree removals, one of the considerations was the street wall continuity along the sidewalk. But there were other considerations in terms of the biodiversity of the trees and the health of the impact of the trees after the construction. In some cases, like the applicant mentioned, some trees will require very careful digging around the roots. So those were located in areas that could be distance away from the construction and potentially have that longevity after construction impacts. The ones that you also mentioned before, the trees along the Paseo, because of some of the grading and the construction that would need to be built up around the trees, they wouldn't have that. They wouldn't have the ability of the trees to last much longer after construction. So it was definitely a balance between various factors. If the applicant did propose a proposal that would deviate from the East Wisdom precise plan that significantly, I think it would take some additional consideration. Just the ones that we did right now were a little bit easier to work around in terms of modifying the streetscape.
Is the arborist available on the call?
Yeah, I believe we have the landscape architect team on
The
line.
arborist.
The arborist had a conflict this evening, so he's not available. But I believe you said the forester may be available? The city forester? No. The landscape architect is available and he can speak to it. They've had numerous conversations with the arborist.
We have the 6 trees along Ellis are, the largest is a 200-inch diameter and the smallest is a 130-inch diameter. How long does it take for a tree and a redwood of that size to grow? That's not 10 years or 20 years. I mean, I'm not looking for an exact number, but are those 100-year-old trees?
I suspect that those trees were planted with the original development of this site. So probably around 50, 60 years for those trees. That'd be my guess.
So we're talking about 60-year-old trees. All right, thank you.
No other questions? If no others, then I'll jump in with mine. You answered one of mine about the Paseo and why it needed to change grade to begin with, and that's just for the building to have access.
That's correct. It's
two.
because we wanted to activate the Paseo and have access from both buildings opening up onto the Paseo. So the Paseo has to be at the same elevation as the 2 buildings so that they can interact with each other, and that's what drove that, as well as providing accessibility through the site. Because the front and the back aren't at the same elevation. The Paseo does go up as it goes across.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me if you're trying to activate the Paseo from the 2 buildings, which is a nice characteristic, and then the two back to front is a longer distance and has more room to change elevation, and they're not the same anyway, so why not do it that way? One question I had actually for staff, and I believe I'll just ask it now, and you can answer it for everybody, was that it seemed like this particular project wasn't as fleshed out as some of the other ones that we see at public hearings, and I was just curious if there was a reason for that or if I'm just mistaken.
In what particular way?
For instance, sometimes you didn't get a lot of the floor plans. You didn't see as many details. Sometimes you just get a lot more detail on a packet, and not that we can't make a decision based on what we see, but I was just curious if they were maybe a little ahead of the process or a little, if there was a reason for that.
Understood. No, this went through the standard procedures. It did go to community meeting and development review committee. So we have a complete plan set. The one that's attached online generally for even all projects are reduced to reduce some of the page counts for it to upload and download recently. So we have the plan sets for the floor plans. It's a little bit straightforward for a hotel, just because it's usually just a hallway and rooms. And then the office is right now just a spec space, so it's just that rectangular footprint that you see on the site plan. The applicant will be required to provide additional architectural detailing in terms of some of the materials, but that's pretty standard for other projects to provide some clarification on detailing during the building permit phase.
Okay, there's just a long list of conditions of approval. So I just thought, well, maybe some of those things hadn't gotten fleshed out yet, so I figured I'd ask. Thank you. Another question I had was, how does staff calculate canopy?
The canopy study is provided by the applicant as part of their application materials. The canopy is measured at 3 different points of the growth of the tree. You're asking about the tree canopy, right?
Yeah, in general, because redwoods are very tall and skinny, and then other trees might have a very large canopy but are much shorter. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if there's any consideration for the differences in that. Is it just the diameter of the tree, the drip line, or the canopy?
Correct. Yeah.
The area taken under.
Okay, yes. So the actual measurement of the tree would be to the drip line and more the horizontal, not necessarily the volume and the height of the tree.
Okay, and I believe Vice Chair Dempsey had asked a question that the whole commission did not hear, and that was the value of a tree. Because we can't get the 2-to-1 replacement, I think you said there was going to be a value paid forward in lieu fee for any tree, and would you mind just stating what that value was?
Thank you for the question. So I'm Principal Planner Diana Pancholi with the Planning Division. We do have an adopted fee dollar amount of $750 per tree in our fee schedule, and that gets updated periodically. But that incorporates the value of the tree plus the administration of staff time involved for planting the tree as well. So yeah, that's the number we have right now in our fee schedule.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's all for my questions. Appreciate it. Sorry, Vice Chair Dempsey has popped up as wanting a question. Wanting to ask.
I always like to think about it for a long time. I have 2 different questions. I want to follow up on the in lieu fee question. That's set by ordinance, not by statute, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I'll reserve comments on that. So I have a somewhat arcane question about the automatic parkers, and it's because I'm not familiar with them. I've never actually used one. I've not seen one here in Mountain View. I'm excited by it because it's a neat new technology. It sounds like it allows us to park cars more efficiently, and in a time when we're really trying to reduce the amount of parking spaces that we impose when we're building buildings, this is exciting technology. But I want to understand some things about how it works, because I have maybe an uneducated concern about them, and staff has told me that I don't need to worry about this, but I want to hear you tell me not to worry about it too. And it has to do with queuing. The space where these cars are going to be coming in and utilizing the self-parker, it's that narrow little band around the back, right? So if you're coming into the hotel, you go right into the coach port, right? It's right there. Or if you're coming into work, there's a little bit longer space there. And if you have 4 ports and it takes about 2.5 minutes to cycle a car through, I'm a little less worried about the hotel maybe because you've got valets and valets can drive around the block or whatever if there's a backup. If you're coming into work, that's a little different because we're all going through return to work now. I can imagine many of the people working any particular day are all going to come between 8 and 9 o'clock, right? And it sounds like you could cycle them all through in an hour, and that's great, but you can't cycle them all. What if they all come roughly at the same time? They all show up at 8:45 for a 9 o'clock meeting, right? If you have 20 cars, you're going to have people waiting up to 10 minutes in a line just to get their car in there. And I mean, leaving aside that that's a lot of idling, what I worry about is if you get too many cars at once, they're going to start backing up into the roadway onto Ellis. I think it'd be Ellis. Walk me through why that's not going to be a problem. And one way you could reassure me is if the TDM actually includes some provision for if this starts becoming a problem, the office would have to stagger when people come into work or whatever, that there's a mechanism through the TDM to make sure that concern never actually comes to pass.
Sure. So I mean, you're spot on with the number of times it's going to cycle through in the 4 and so forth. So the math's there. But one of the considerations is there's also some additional parking spaces that are surface parking spaces out beyond that. And that area could easily be used for additional spaces during that period of time. They could be reserved. They can be whatever type of thing. So there's some additional spaces. And then the distance between the lifts and the street is quite a bit further than I think it appears. It's enough to accommodate at least 6 or 8 cars, in that distance there. And then the last thing is it's not really that narrow. It's a 26-foot drive aisle, which was mandated by the fire department. So you can have cars, if there was a couple cars waiting to go in, and still have circulation going past that. And they could go past it and go park on the other side and wait. They can back up. There's opportunity there. And we're completely open to the requirement to stagger, if it becomes. But one of the things I did want to mention is that the TDM does include a yearly monitoring. So there's a reporting in the TDM that if there is a problem, it's going to be notified and a correction is going to be happen. So that's part of the participation in the TMV. I can't remember all the acronyms, but the Mountain View Transportation Management Association. We're participating in that, and then there's also the TDM, which has the monitoring associated with it. So if there is a problem, there's already a mechanism built in to address it.
Perfect. That makes me feel much better. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no more questions at this time, we'll move to public comment. If anyone in attendance would like to provide comments on this item, please fill out a yellow speaker card and provide it to the EPC clerk. If anyone on Zoom would like to provide comment on this item, please click the raise hand button in Zoom or press *9 on your phone. Phone users can mute and unmute themselves with *6.
We have 1 speaker in person and 1 virtual speaker on Zoom.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
So I just want to start off by saying that no environmental issue is insignificant, because then every environmental issue becomes insignificant, and we end up with issues like habitat loss, extinction, and climate change. My first point is that the developer's arborist report overlooks the quality and downplays the excellent health of 15 mature heritage redwood trees that would easily outlive us all if they weren't destined for the wood chipper. My next point is the city of Mountain View preaches a vision of sustainable neighborhoods, access to nature, and in their own words, place a strategic priority on sustainability and climate resiliency. And yet they stand by as the legacy of the California state tree comes crashing down. The document, the study of environmental significance, does not adequately address the loss of habitat and the fact that the redwoods are the most powerful carbon sequestering organism on the planet, up to like 2 or 3 times other tree kinds. So if you have all those other species of trees, it doesn't really matter because they're not going to be able to absorb as much carbon as redwoods. It is therefore extremely likely that replacing the 15 heritage trees, like I said, with 30 or 40, it doesn't matter really, of unknown species will not meet the carbon sequestering capabilities of the original 15, let alone have the ecological benefits that the endemic species such as redwoods have. Redwoods grow in tight clusters, and selectively removing them may undermine the health of other trees, another topic the developer's arborist report neglected to address. I also want to know what the city's requirements are for preserving the longevity of the 30 or 40 new trees, as vegetation on developments often perishes within the first couple of years. I challenge the city of Mountain View to be braver in their requirements for new developments, particularly because of global warming continues to increase at an exponential rate, and they have already approved a new residential development at the other end of Ellis Street. Why should the western end of Ellis Street get all the redwood action? The ecological benefit of the trees is significantly higher if they are able to grow all the way down the street. Be brave, Mountain View Environmental Planning Commission. Protect the environment. That's what you're here for, after all. And 2 trees for every 1 tree. Come on, we can do better than that. The cost of 1,000 new trees is a minuscule part of the developer's cost for the project. I want to be clear that I'm not trying to hinder the development in Mountain View. We're all just trying to hold the city and developers accountable for creating new sustainable environments that they promote so heavily on their website, especially in 2023 when we really can't afford to screw over the environment anymore. I also want to say I contacted the city of Mountain View's representative for the project, but the response was unsatisfactory and was a regurgitation of the information that I provided in my initial email and failed to address the points I made. You would assume it's the responsibility to collect and equally consider information from all parties. And my final point is, I don't know if any of you guys have actually been out to the site, but I went out there the other day, and these are like proper national park quality trees. They're like massive, like this big. Like if you can, the very fact that you guys would be able to stand and watch 15 of these trees be cut down really makes me question your choice to be part of the Environmental Planning Commission, because I haven't slept for days.
Thank you.
Time is up.
That's all. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
We have
On Zoom.
one more speaker, Bruce England. Just 1 second.
Go ahead, Bruce.
Bruce, you can talk now.
Okay, now, yeah, I had to make sure I got the unmutes right. You hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good, thank you. Okay, so yeah, like the last speaker, Bruce England, Wisman Station Drive, a lot of comments related to the environment, but also active transportation and planning in general. So I've got comments for Green Spaces Mountain View Coalition for Sustainable Planning, and the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition local team. So I'm just going to go through these and categorize them as I go. The following are for green spaces. Our organization holds a strong position in general on allowing trees, even non-native ones, to live out their natural lives as they're actively providing carbon sequestration and canopy. Please keep this in mind with this project. Next, we want to know the developers applying for multiple permits on the trees to remove, which could increase expenses on filing appeals. If you've already covered that, sorry, I missed it. Next, some do seem like the trees are in a courtyard area. It was a little hard to tell which trees are being saved or not, but any trees that can be saved, including any in the Paseo area and other open areas, would be great. Lastly, for green spaces, more glass reduction would be good too, in the interest of optimum bird safety and reduced light and energy leakage. Similarly, we would like to know what kind of policies you're exploring around dark sky optimization. As an MVCSP member, 3 points. Public amenities look good. Unlike some other proposed projects from Mountain View, these areas appear to not be covered. Obvious point, we're having yet more office and hotel when we actually need more housing. And lastly, for MVCSP, there are no CERT teams in that area. I don't know if you know that. There are none in that area east of North Wisman at all, and that is really a problem for emergency response. Lastly, as a Bicycle Coalition member, 5 quick points. TDM features supporting bike-related infrastructure looks good. The posts at the end of the Paseo, why are those needed? Keeping vehicles out of there? We're not sure. I'd like to ask about their construction. Hard posts could pose serious safety risks to those passing through. Third of five, we note the closed off food area. Is there consideration for food carts and live music in the Paseo to help activate the public facing areas? Fourth, are bike lockers reasonably close to vehicle parking areas and or where they need to be seen? And lastly, please ensure that trees over sidewalks and bike lanes do not drop cones, seeds, needles, etc., and that pedestrians and bicyclists are adequately safe as they pass through there. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no more public speakers.
No other speakers.
Thank you. Then we'll move to the commission deliberation and action. Would anybody like to speak first? Commissioner Cranston.
So I did go to the site. And if you'd been in the car with me, what you heard was a wail when I saw the trees that have yellow tape around them. The heritage tree ordinance is for these kinds of trees. We go after smaller trees that meet the ordinance, but these are glorious, and they're in clusters. They're not just by themselves. One of the reasons I was hoping to have the person who did the analysis. There's a three tree clusters and a two tree cluster. I don't know how, and they are grown next to each other. I don't know how you remove two of the trees and allow one of the trees to still be there and be viable. Okay, it doesn't. They've grown together, and they're one big. That's how redwoods grow, and I just $750 to take out one of these trees. That's what we get for taking out one of these trees. I can't even express how inadequate that seems to me. I don't have a problem with what they're trying to propose, what they're trying to do on the site. I want to see development there, but this is wrong. And I asked myself, is there something about this, if he's compelling, that I would want to go after this, to do this, and this project is proposed, and lose particularly the ones along Ellis? And I had to say no. There's not enough here to make up for the loss of those. Their arborist report says they're all in a good condition. The reason they're listed as removal is because they would be in the footprint of the building going forward. I might buy that 282 through 285. Maybe you can't keep all of them, but it would seem that you might be able to at least get away with keeping a couple of those in between in the Paseo and work around the grading there. But these are not small trees. They're bigger than four of us combined standing next together, and they, like the speaker said, they'll be here long into the future. There's some interesting things about the lift system, interesting, cool, but this just feels so wrong to me. And I don't know if anybody else went to the site and looked at them, but this is why we have a heritage tree program, to protect trees like this. And so my recommendation would be that staff go back and work with the applicant to look at ways to preserve these, because I can't in good faith say that this is the right thing to do. I am more than happy to go around on a sidewalk. If I get someplace and there's a big tree in the way, yes, bike coalition, it interferes with the bike path, but I'm more than happy to walk around a tree because I know they did something to save that tree. And I'm okay with that. Rerouting the sidewalks, make them serpentine, let's do it if it means saving those trees. But I was.
No one else? If not, then I will make my comments here at the end. There are a lot of positives with this project that I saw. It was really nice to see the precise plan moving forward with development proposals. That's exciting. And the meandering of the sidewalk, I'm also in favor of, to save the trees. I like the active paseo, the concealing of the parking. These are all great things. LEED Platinum, I know that's needed to get the bonus FAR, but thank you for doing that. I'm also okay with the exception for the loading. I share the same concern as Commissioner Cranston, and this is the sole one, which is the heritage tree removal. We have had like a record September globally for heat. I think we're breaking year after year the global temperature records. And obviously this project is not going to change that. I think I'm bringing it up more as a comment on how we value the environment and the fact that decisions decades ago have led us to the situation. And given what is happening, we should probably then really take in consideration the value of the environment. And I know very often projects come forward. If there's a big underground parking garage, you just can't have a parking garage that saves the tree in the middle. I understand that. When we have affordable housing and it's so difficult to get that, I can understand that. But we have a blank slate. These trees are in the Paseo. They're on Ellis, clustered together. I completely agree. I had the same thought, redwoods cluster. And they also thrive during drought better when they can be side by side and work underground, talking to each other and helping each other with the minerals and nutrition and water. So to cut a little grove cluster, even if the arborist says it can be done, I believe that it can't. It takes away the ability for it to thrive in future years down considerably. And I also walked down Ellis, not recently, but when we did the precise plan. And I noted that Ellis is distinctive amongst streets in Mountain View for having these grand, great trees lining the entire length practically. And there are different varieties, but the redwoods really stand out. They're enormous, and they're right near the sidewalk. Obviously when you're standing there, you can't really know what 20 feet feels like. Again, had I known that Ellis would be affected by this 20-foot street wall, I would have made a point to mention it as well. 20 feet. I feel like what we do in EBC is to see all the exceptions, and we're making exceptions for the loading and the sidewalk. I would have gladly made an exception for the 20-foot street wall. I think a lot of this could have been avoided in design, and I don't take away that you work very hard. The developer and the architect has worked very hard. I see a lot of great things here. I just wish that the value of these trees were considered during design, because as a lot of people have said, they're not easily replaceable. In fact, the value of my front yard tree, which is 10 feet tall, was $3,000. So we're not even replacing it properly. Not that I even believe replacing it is equivalent, but we can't even do that. So I think it's a real shame we don't have affordable. I know that's not the project and it's not the discussion we're having, but given that this is a project where we're starting kind of from scratch, the tree clusters, they're in clusters, they're kind of near the sidewalk, we're so close, just a small design change, I know I say small, but a small design change early on and even now could have saved these groves. And one also concern is that this is one of the few developments on Ellis. It's the first one. It's going to set a precedent. If we allow for these redwoods to go with this one, every other development following will do the same. And then where will that street be? We're working hard to try to tree all our streets with mature trees, and we have one here and we're diminishing it. So that seems quite a shame. So those are my comments. A lot of things are good, but on that one note, I have concerns. Anyone else? Oh, thank you. Commissioner Clark, and then Vice Chair Dempsey.
Yeah, so looking at the project compliance and the bonus FAR, I'll sort of go in reverse order. So I appreciate the building's LEED Platinum. And then you're meeting the community benefits contribution is required. The loading space exemption or request for an exception, I'm fine with, as well as the streetscape design to save the heritage trees that we can. I think the only concern is what others have echoed, and I think, as we make a recommendation to the council, if there is an opportunity to take one more look before this goes to council to see if there is a way to preserve in large part, the design of the project, just with changing some of the setbacks, and look at whether or not it's possible to save one or more of these groves. I think it's worth taking one more look at. I realize it's been looked at by a number of others already, but I think you've heard from some of us that that's at least a piece of feedback that we'd really like the council to consider and understand that we had concerns there. I will say that there are two sides to this. Redwoods are controversial in Mountain View. They take a lot of water. And as we expand Purple Pipe, as we've done in North Bay Shore, and we'll eventually do in East Wisman, the salinization issue is something that comes up. And we also have, as environmental stewards, we need to think about the long term and creating a canopy and a diverse set of more native species that will thrive in the environment that we have today and in the future. So I'm not trying to make an argument for just let these trees go. I'm just saying it's important to keep in mind that redwoods are really great at carbon sequestration, but they also have other issues, especially in this part of the bay, when it comes to the water that they require in order to thrive, and our plans long term to expand Purple Pipe and ensure that we can expand our canopy and have a more diverse set of species of trees throughout the city. So if I'm willing to move this forward. I think if there's a majority of folks who want to have staff see if they can take one more look with the applicant to see if there are other exceptions that we can make in terms of the setbacks or the proximity to the street, because I agree. I now feel guilty that as part of the East Wisman precise plan process that we, when we were looking at setbacks and the requirements, that we didn't necessarily think about Ellis and the existing trees there. So if there's some way to substantially keep this the way it is, but also move it back a bit so that we can preserve those, or if it requires narrower sidewalks, as much as I hate that, maybe there are ways to make this work, and at least we should flag that as an issue to council.
Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, I should say it. Vice Chair Dempsey.
Thank you. I think it's funny. I came tonight ready to talk about parking and automatic parkers and stuff. I wasn't expecting to think too much about trees. I think one thing that I am taking away from the discussion tonight is I think there may need to be a conversation at some other point about the in lieu fee part of the heritage tree ordinance, because it sounds like there's many people who value some of these trees more than the way that we've written it out. We may need to recalibrate that, and I think perhaps it should be sliding scale based on how big the tree is or something. But we should at least have the value be somewhat more commensurate with how people feel about them. I think that would at least be, if nothing else, a little bit more accurate. I think that I'm willing to bet that staff at every level did really do their best to try to preserve as many of these trees as possible as they're going through design. I'm willing to put $20 on the table now that was true. Because these tree preservation issues come up every time we do a development. I don't think it's any secret that people care strongly about any time we do infill or any kind of redevelopment of an area. We want to preserve as many trees as we possibly can. We say it every time we have one of these projects here. I don't think that's going to be a surprise to staff, and I definitely am. I feel quite confident that every time these projects come up, staff is doing their level best to keep as many of these trees as possible. somewhat because of that, I'm a little hesitant to second guess how many trees they think they can save and how many they think have to go. I have no problem, in truth, if the proposal had been, you know, let's give them a waiver on the 20 foot gap at the frontage so we could save some trees. I'd be like, yeah, that's cool with me. I don't have any problem with that. That wasn't what was put forward, but I'm happy to say that I would have considered that and I would have thought that that was a great idea. I don't know how feasible that is because I don't know anything about creating buildings. So I would love for the experts to come back and say, yeah, we could save a couple more of those, or it isn't going to work. You can't make a building that way. But I would need the experts to tell me that, and maybe our use here is simply to say to council, go back and check one more time if you'd like, because it is important stuff to us. But again, I'm pretty sure that the plan that we've got now, staff has really tried as best they could to save as many trees as they can. But again, I would have happily considered an exception on that 20-foot thing if that was the main reason that we weren't saving a couple of those trees. Other than that, I guess I would say there is a lot about this project that I like, and we didn't really get to talk about it. I think having a LEED Platinum building is pretty nice. I love it that it was prioritized to that degree. I think it's a great usage of that space. It's in the employment character area, and that's exactly where we should be building things like this. It's the first hotel I think we've had in that section of the neighborhood. I don't know that there's any other one right now. That's a valuable thing. There's a restaurant there that people in the neighborhood could come and sit in that really nice paseo and have boba, and it's, you know, that's a really nice thing. There's a lot of good things here that I don't think we got to praise, and I appreciate it. I think it's a beautiful building, and I'm excited to see it go. And I just hope that maybe our message in sending this forward, and I would happily vote this forward tonight, is maybe if we can put a little bit more thought into if there is a way to flex around to save a couple more of those trees, awesome. That's enough for me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cranston?
So on 555 West Middlefield, staff worked with the applicant and said, this is what has to leave. And council said, go back and worked on it. And they did. And when they came back, they saved the trees in the middle of the development. They redesigned it to do that. My recommendation to council is exactly that. There are good things, I agree, there's good things about this project. We want this to be developed, okay? But this is not the only option. And my recommendation would be to council is exactly what they did on 555. Go back to staff and go back to the applicant and say, find a way, add indentations into the front of the building so you can keep some of these clusters in place. Do something more interesting with the front, okay? The LEED Platinum, all for. Getting a hotel in this area, the transit occupancy tax is one of the best sources of funds for the city, and so it's a good thing for the budget, okay? The stackers, I'm curious. I must admit that I'm skeptical. If I saw a hotel that I had to use a stacker, I probably would find a different hotel, but maybe if I tried it once, then I'd be happy with it. But I'm okay with the innovation. So don't get me wrong, I'm not stuck on the rest of the project. There is precedent this year of council going back and saying, go look at it again, and the developer and staff coming back with an option that saved more trees. That's what I'm asking for. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for clarification from Commissioner Clark. When you said that you would be for taking another look, is that the same as what you're hearing from Commissioner Cranston in terms of taking another look? If you wouldn't mind clarifying.
No, my recommendation to council would not be to that they should deny the project as is. My recommendation to council would be if staff has an opportunity to meet with the applicant and they feel it would be fruitful to explore that 20-foot setback, and there's an opportunity to not start from scratch and spend another year on this or 6 months or whatever it is, then they should do that and raise that as a possibility or a flag to council. And in addition to capturing our comments tonight that we had significant concerns, or what I assume will be a majority of the EPC had significant concerns about it. But in terms of recommending that everyone go back to the drawing board, I don't think that would be my recommendation, because I mean, it's with a few exceptions, it's largely compliant with the precise plan. And if the council wants to reopen the heritage tree ordinance, then so be it. But that's not before us tonight.
I understand. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Haymeyer, please.
Great, thanks. Could I just ask staff now? I mean, what would that process look like? I assume in part of these conversations, there have been options raised of amending or granting certain exceptions to the precise plan, or maybe it hasn't come up, but could you just, could this be an option that staff would really go back and look at making significant changes to the setback to allow for trees to be saved and the project to move forward in a modified form?
Yeah, we can say kind of what that process would look like, but I think the best to answer your specific question is actually the applicant and what they can change at this point.
Yeah. Would the applicant...
Is it appropriate to ask the applicant?
Tom, yes, please.
Public hearing?
Well,
I mean, the public comment?
yeah. For quick questions, it would be, if you don't mind keeping it very brief.
Yeah, absolutely.
Answer Commissioner Haymeyer's question about the process.
Yeah, and I think that Commissioner Dempsey hit it right on the nose, is that staff has emphasized this from day one. There's no question that the trees are an important feature, and we've tried really hard to preserve as many trees as we can. That's not to say that we can't go back and look at it again, but it's going to be very difficult to make significant changes to the building. The ones that, honestly, that I see that have some potential would be the ones over by the office building. And the reason I say that is the hotel buildings, hotel rooms are a certain size, and the parking is a certain size, and the fire lane behind it is a certain size. So we can't just push that building back without losing a whole stack of rooms. I mean, it'd be a significant change to the hotel side. That side's going to be very difficult to modify. The Paseo, perhaps we can relook at that and some of the trees in the Paseo. We did look at that, and we did look at it very hard, but I'm not saying it's impossible. And then the office side, same thing. I mean, maybe we can look at shuffling some trees or some buildings or something over there. But from my perspective, this is something that's been front of mind from the very beginning, and we've worked really hard to do that with staff. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Haymeyer, you still had?
Well, no, just I appreciate the discussion tonight, and I think I would say, I spend most of my time in Vance Brown buildings, and I know that they're Vance Brown Platinum buildings. I think the quality of this project is strong, and it advances the East Wisman precise plan as we had hoped. I think the concerns about the heritage trees, I just don't know. It seems like a lot of the conversations that have happened to date about preserving these trees, I don't know what reopening would really open us, what that would advance. But I would support what Commissioner Clark proposed and having that reopened. And I appreciate Commissioner Cranston's comment that if there's precedent and our recommendation from this meeting is strong enough that the message is sent to council that they should figure out a way to reopen, I think particularly on the office side, to look at, a two-story commercial office building can be configured in multiple ways would be my guess, as opposed to the standards set out by the hotel. So I would support what Commissioner Clark presented.
So it sounds like there is a majority. I'm going to just take a look at you guys. To move forward, at least 1, 2, 3, to move forward with this condition that they take another look at saving trees. And is that correct in this assumption? It seems.
Yeah, I can make a motion
Can you make,
to that
effect.
Thank you. I can attempt to.
Thank you.
So I'll move the staff recommendation as printed in the staff report but in addition, a recommendation from the EPC to to meet with the applicant, explore additional ways to save additional heritage trees, especially the redwoods, if possible, either in the Paseo and or along Ellis, especially the trees that are in fair to good, noted in fair to good condition, even if that means exceptions to the 20 feet. And just note our concerns to council about those as well. So even if staff meets with the applicant and there's no other, they determine that all measures have been taken, that there's still the comments from us that we had concerns about especially the precedent in this particular area around the removal of the heritage trees and as new developments come online, because I think, as the chair pointed out, this is the first, if not, I think this is the first that we've seen. So, does that make sense?
Is that sufficient for a motion?
Can you display the screen? I'm sharing my screen. So we tried to come up with the language.
I just need voice recognition to capture what I say in real time, so you don't have to type it. It's for additional.
Would it need to be reread now?
Without substantially modifying the project. Yeah, and you captured the exception of the 20-foot setback. So I think that's all accurate. I made a list of the trees. They were all in, I think, at least the 6 that I identified along Ellis were all, it looked like, in fair to good condition. I didn't double check the Paseo trees, but anyway, yes, I think that that accurately captures my motion.
Does the 20-foot setback apply to the Paseo or to Ellis?
Ellis.
Can we say that?
Just one quick logistical question for council. When we vote, we're voting on the entire thing with this motion, or do we need to vote on whether or not we're... Never mind. I've answered my own question as I said it out loud.
Can I just add, the motion also included the transmittal of the EPC's concerns related to the tree preservation issues. So it's this, the motion is the staff recommendation as stated in the staff report, with direction for staff to explore additional opportunities to preserve existing healthy trees on site through design modifications, especially in the Paseo and along Ellis Street, even if it may affect the 20-foot setback, without substantially modifying the project, and to transmit to council the EPC's concerns expressed at this meeting with respect to the tree preservation issues. Is that adequate, Commissioner? Thank you.
Okay, then I think we were ready for the vote.
Oh, I'll second it.
More?
Was there a second? And it was.
I'll second.
Thank you.
So the motion by Commissioner Clark, seconded by Commissioner Haymeyer.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do a manual call. So Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Cranston?
Aye.
Commissioner Haymeyer?
Aye.
Vice Chair Dempsey?
Aye.
Chair Ain?
I would actually take it a little further than what the motion says, so I'm going to say nay on the tree heritage count.
All right. So the motion passes with 4 yes, 1 no, and 2 absent.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now we are moving to agenda item 6, commission staff announcements, updates, requests, and committee reports. No action will be taken on any questions raised by the commission at this time. Does anyone have any announcements to make or updates or requests? Commissioner Cranston?
So could I make a request to Rebecca and the Design Review Committee? Every, and I forgot the name of it, the corners, you know, the important corners, they all look the same. Every single project we've seen has a tower at the corner. There's got to be different ways to do special corners than just putting a tower at the corner, okay? So it's like, I mean, I've been here for 4 years and every single, you know, important corner is a tower. It doesn't feel special anymore. So you like the design? I'm like, didn't look, it's like, okay, I've seen that, I've seen that, I've seen it. It doesn't seem special anymore. So a request back to the DRC to find a different way to make those important corners look like important corners, give some variety, because they're no longer feeling unique to me. Anyway, I don't know whether other people thought about it, but it was just like, wow, it's another tower. Okay, how is that special? It doesn't. So, just one person's view. The DRC can say go away, but that's it didn't feel. It no longer feels special to me when I see those kind of corners over and over and over again. There's got to be more ways to do it. So it's a request. It's not an announcement or otherwise. And I would really love to see if the tree ordinance is $750 regardless of the stupid heritage tree, then something's wrong. Okay. If a tree's been there for 60 years and it's bigger than a house, it should be more than $750. So if that can be something that at some point staff looks at and thinks about a mechanism for evaluating trees differently, that would be really great.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements or updates?
So staff has an announcement. This is to note that the EPC meeting for October 18th is being canceled. And our next scheduled EPC meeting will be held on November 1st, 2023.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
Can I ask a question of staff? Do you know when the hearing or when the interviews will be for the open spot on the Planning Commission?
I do not have that information yet, but maybe Eric has.
Yeah, the interviews are second or third week in October, I think. Yeah.
so we'll just put it out to the public that we're going to take applications in. Oh, they closed.
Yeah,
29th.
applications are
Was
closed.
it the 29th?
We've received all of our applications, and then
They've already been, okay. Apologies for that. So the last time we were here, Commissioner Haymeyer had mentioned that she is terming out. And when we went to the celebration of service, I found out that she had also served 20 years, I believe it was, of service for the community. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for that time and effort and heart put into, 20 years into the city. And we appreciate it. And we'll miss you. And also, I don't know if the public knew that we have a big shift. Our liaison is now Diana Pancioli. And second one actually.
Second.
But yeah, I thought it was well known. But I just wanted to just say that out loud. So we welcome you and look forward to continuing, our work together. And I don't think we've ever gotten a chance to just say how much we appreciate Eric Anderson here. I forgot your title, sorry. And that you've been with us for many, many years. And I think you've been a genuinely nice person. Truly, that's like the biggest compliment I can give. A nice person, really kind. And you've taken us through these processes, some difficult processes, with grace and humor and humility. So thank you very much for that. That's it for me. And with that, I think we will close out. It is 8:35. Meeting is adjourned.